This is Justin Scoop for SPX on May 6th, 2024. Take a look at the daily, zoomed out a little bit to see the last time we may have put in a high and then had come down some. This this area over here is where I had drawn in this green downtrend and showed some parallels to that very recently. And this has been the biggest thing that's been guiding my view of where we're at. And so I think today's candle is very much like this candle. We're above that channel. Um, Friday's candle was kind of a doji sort of candle, above the green channel. We had the added benefit of the gap up from Thursday to Friday. Uh, there was this hammer here with news on Thursday, no, on Thursday. So we had a hammer here. Um, you had the big sell-off day here, big sell-off day here. So the only thing different out of the last last five candles, excuse me, is this kind of inverted hammer. We didn't really have one of those. That would have been in between these two. Um, so the last four out of the last five candles looks very much similar to what we had breaking out of that green downtrend going back to August of last year. So again, that has been the biggest thing guiding me to just, hey, this looks like a breakout from a channel. It's looking bullish. We've got plenty of resistance overhead, just like this had a number of things that were just upper wicks through here, the gap. We're seeing a lot of the same things. We got this kind of a gap that, well, it was a huge fade, gap up and fade. We've got some upper wicks. We had another gap and fade. No, that's not a gap and fade. That is a bullish gap and go that then the very next day gap down. So again, just we're getting right into some resistance. And if we look at what the next few days did back in August of last year, I would not be surprised if we have some really small candles up here. Now, if we have a big, massive breakout candle, great, I'll be wrong. And until we do break out, I'm going to be trading it like there's some resistance ahead, possibly looking for some place maybe up in here to sell some premium, looking for a rollover. And let me turn this back off. If I turn on the exponential moving averages, which is this button, so just by looking at this, uh, back over here, we had the 10, 20, and 50 below us, 10, 20, and 50 below us, a little further below us than it was on this candle on Tuesday, August 29th, 2023. Uh, so it looks like we're still, I mean, it may be, yeah, we've just got some extra room there. So that may be calling us back into it in the next few days, just like this did, come back into the 10 and the 20. If this comes all the way back to the 10 and 20, and we're all the way up at 5180 right now, it easily come back to the low 5100s, maybe 5125 in the next couple of days. That might be enough to capture a little bit of the premium up in here. Just depends on where. But again, still be cautious in that. Make sure you understand the risk if you're going to do that. But I would love to have kind of a similar setup to what we did here, where we came up, looked like we were maybe retesting what could be like a bigger double bottom. We definitely have that going now. So if this could be a retest, but then what we ultimately got was just kind of a bit of a triangle here that ultimately sent us to a new low, an S curve, and then another low. So, um, I don't want to get too far ahead, but let's say we have some chop up here. We could definitely break down. We could easily push into the 200 that's further down here. That'd be a great target if we can get some rolling over to happen. But let's just wait and see if that's going to happen. If we have a massive bull candle tomorrow, maybe we do stay higher for a little bit. I don't know. We'll just have to see what the chart gives us. This candle today is definitely smaller than the one that we had on this day. Uh, but anyway, so that's been guiding where I've been looking at this level at the daily. So let's zoom in on the 3 minute. And I have some of the levels that I've got here in the 3 minute. I had drawn in some lines a couple days back that I just left this in, and then sure enough, hang on, let me turn off the exponentials moving average. There we go. So I had just drawn in this channel as we were going down, um, and then we tagged that level incredibly with the news on Wednesday. Uh, let's see, we got right back into this range on Friday, and it pretty much held as resistance. I mean, the whole channel really held as resistance, which it doesn't really fit something major down here other than interacting with the moving averages. And it may just be a fluke that this line got drawn in where it did. But you look at kind of today, and we had a high wave candle at open right on top of it, slightly above the upper wick, just kind of bounced around on the lower edge here, dropped down, came back up to this edge, looked like it wanted to keep going up, and then went sideways for a bit. Ultimately, got back up into the channel. So we'll see if this continues to be some resistance here over the next couple days. I mean, if we're just going to chop around some smaller candles, could definitely be in that area. And then the this channel here is the one that I drew in on Friday. I was trying to trade some of this, and it really just it went sideways for the last while. The last like 2 hours of the day just really went sideways. And it kind of makes sense just with how volatile earlier in the week was, especially Wednesday, and the gap up on Friday. It totally makes sense to just have nothing happen into the close and suck out all the premium from anyone buying options, you know. And so today, gapping up above that, yet again, another gap, it looks like, okay, something should move. And so if we look at where these lines were today, we had some really great touches on these values here. Like I said, we were just kind of chop around here, held this one really well. Great bounce here. I was I was busy till about noon, 12:15, 12:30, somewhere in there. And I just glanced at the chart around that time, around lunchtime. This is central time. Just glanced at the chart to see what was going on. Didn't really see anything that I could really play. This was just kind of grinding up. And then when it got up here, I was putting in this kind of a channel just based on the peak here, and the low here, just to see what had happened, to see if it interacted. And then I got a steeper one going here. But when I saw that we bounced really well off of this level, I was buying calls here at this level, thinking, what if we bounce again? So I'll erase this stuff here. So we got above this level, retested back into it, S curved up. Didn't know how far down we would break or pull back into. And so this pretty closely pulled into the high here. This would have been a much better entry if I had waited. Um, but I got in when I wanted to get in off of that candle. Started to go up a little bit, rode the top edge of this channel down with four bear candles on a 3 minute, and then we started to go. So this is really cool. I was not on the 3 minute anymore. And I know it seems like I joke about that, but I go down to much shorter time frames, especially this late in the day, when I'm playing options. The best part of this setup is uh, the price was around 51.65, and I was looking at the 51.75 strike, which is about right here. And what I love about that is it's 10 points away with less than an hour to go. And so it's extremely inexpensive. And it has a huge potential. So let's go down to 1 minute, see if that does it justice. So on the 1 minute, you can sort of see this channel a little better. You can see this channel a little better. We got a great bounce here. That's just lining up this high, and this low. Yes, lined up really well. Not the time to be going bearish. Yeah, I could have rolled over and I would have lost absolute zero on the calls here. I was okay with that. That was my risk. Uh, I thought that was going to happen when we got down here. It's like, oh, we are breaking down. It's like, wait a sec, this lower wick is holding. We did like a double bottom on that and kind of like X marks the spot. Like, let's get going from here. So that started to break back up, paused here. And at this point, you've got the high of the day here, slight pullback to, a little bit under the high is what I mean. And then right here, it's like, oh, okay, here's another lower high. Is that really going to hold? And then sure enough, we broke out. We tested this incredibly with this high wave candle. Um, I was getting out of one of the contracts here just to lock in a gain and to let the rest rise. So I got two of the 51.75 calls for 0.25 down here. Got out of one of them for 0.75. So at that point, it's a free trade. Let that do whatever it's going to do, pulled back down, could have gone back in, whatever, and then just held on. And I do not like holding past 258. Excuse me. I don't like holding past 258. If you have any issue with the broker, and we were in the money at that point. So I was extremely just focused uh, with just what I needed to do, trying to figure out how far is this going to go. I had a target at 5.5. Originally, I had a target at 5.5 on both. By the end of the day, it got there. It had a huge wick up to like 7 or something on the option. I'll show that in a sec. I ultimately got filled at 258 for 3.6. So it was a great move, incredible move to be able to grab a few hours on that. But yeah, I was down to the 1 minute chart. I was watching the 30-second chart, just trying to see where is there going to be some hesitation? Is something starting to reverse? 15-second charts, still seeing these S curves. So, some really nice moves like this through here where, yes, it's S curving on a really small time frame. It's doing it too. And I was just anticipating this is going to continue to break up into this level. It's like we're so close to 51.75. But where we had hesitated here and then started to pull back. So at 250, it's like, okay, let me lock in something. There's 10 minutes left in the day. I'd like something out of this. And sure enough, got the profit. And then it kind of took the pressure off. It's like, okay, this trade is a winner no matter what. Even if I just exit the other contract for next to nothing or nothing, it'll still be a win on the day. But I was looking for more. I was looking to just let one ride, but I wasn't going to let that go all the way till 3 o'clock. So here we are, the 15-second chart, watching this just push higher. And I was out somewhere in here, somewhere in 258. So that's kind of my limit, like 258, seeing like we're pausing here after this peak. Let me get that exit going. And the option is getting extremely spready at this point because one big handle like this, right at the end of the day, will take you back out of the money or at the money and you'll suck out all that premium. So watching that live, this is something I've done for a very long time to understand how the options move, understand my own emotions, understand here's the setup. Can I stay focused on it? What do I need to do to just lock something in? And like I said, if I had just let it ride, both contracts would have hit 5.5, but that would have happened in the last, definitely in the last minute, really in the last like 30 seconds of the day. Uh, Easy way to check that is the price here. The high was 5180.85. And so to hit the 5.5 price on the option, you'd be 5.5 in the money. So 51.75 plus 5.5 is the price, 5180.5. So we're above that. So that's how you know for sure the option got there. If we switch over to the options, you can see it actually spiked up to about 7.5. In the last minute, it had this massive move. I was out at 3.6. This is a 3 minute chart. So I was out at 250 at 3.6, and it was still bouncing around. At one point, it was like 2.75, I think, somewhere near the low here. 2.75 is the low. Yeah. So I was debating, do I exit 3.5? Do I exit 2.5? Where do I set my exit at? Because I was trying to move my target down not wanting to hold for 5.5 in case it didn't get there in, before 258. And it didn't get there when I wanted it to. It did ultimately get there in the last minute. So I had sent the order. It's like I've waited long enough. It's the full minute of 258 is showing on my phone, according to the computer, and set the exit at 3.5, got filled at 3.6, got a little bit of positive slippage there. But even if I had set 2.5, it could have filled me at 2.5 or anywhere above it. But I didn't want to just mark it out, and I didn't want to just hold waiting for 3.5 to never come, and then I'd be still in the option as the market's closing, which is a bad situation. Didn't want to call for my broker, that kind of thing. So there's a lot to do in terms of the repetition to mentally be ready for what you have to do and the focus you have to have in the last minute or two. Uh, this is day trading options with zero DTE, which literally like a minute, 2 minutes left of that option's life, and it'll be dead. Uh, that's something I've focused on for a very long time. So you can see down here. So I was in at about 215, bought at 0.25, two contracts. It did come down to zero point 0.1 and then bounced. I was getting out of the first one or one of them at the 251 time. So about 0.75. I could have gotten out for like one, but it got out at 0.75 just to lock in something. That way it didn't really matter what else was going to happen down in here. We ultimately got that push higher. I thought there was some resistance coming in, some resting right around the 4 price. That's why I'm like, maybe 3.5 would be good. Did come back down to about 3 and then moved into the last 3 minutes of the day and chopped around in this area. Actually, let me go to a 1 minute chart and see if it shows on the option how much it was bouncing around here. Yeah, so here, we'll do this. So there was quite a bit of bounce around in this price between like, well, it actually came all the way down to the 1.85. So even if I had to set an exit or a target price of one, limit sell of one, it would have filled instantly at whatever price. Possibly would have just filled me at one because sometimes the brokers just do that. But at this point, it's not the brokers; it's the automation of how the trading goes and what price it's at. But this is in a minute. Like this is what's happening. This is what I'm watching bounce around, um, seeing where the option price is on my phone while I'm doing this and I'm out at the 258 time, which was this, and it looks like I got the low on that candle, 3.6. And then the next candle came back even lower, down to 2.75. And then, yeah, spiked up in the last like 30 seconds, way up to 7.5, then back for a close above 5.5. So definitely would have filled me at 5.5 if I had held to that, just because it's showing the upper wick here. But at that point, yeah, I don't, I'm looking to get out, especially for a profit. I'm looking to get out. If it's next to nothing, if it's down to 0 or 0.05, and I know there's no chance of it getting to that strike, it's like, okay, I may just get out and save a little bit, on that. But again, that only works when you're using, some, a lot of volume on the options. Uh, so anyway, that was what I was looking at today. Here we are, 1 minute here. And it I mean, the only other thing I was going to mention is if you go back and watch some of my really old videos where I tracked Amazon, for a while there were some setups where I was looking for this kind of a pattern where you have like a double bottom on the RSI and then like a retest. And so this was the point where it did that retesting. I was in on this Oh, that was a bad. Sorry. Let's just do a lot. I was in on that candle at 215. This would have been the better candle to get in on because that's matching up with that retest on the RSI and then just hold on for the ride. That's the only thing I really could have done better on this if I had gotten in again, same about the same price, but less time to the point that maybe I could have been looking at the the 5170 strike instead of the 5175 strike up here. Because the 5170, what it did have going for it is we'd already been above that price in the day. And so actually, let's just look at that for comparison, just to see how that moved a little differently. So if we go back to this, so the low is 0.1. I got filled on two contracts at 0.25, ended up really closing the day around $6 because we were almost $6 in the money. Okay, so if we go now to the 5170 call that expired today, so we're $5 further in the money. So we did take out the low. So we got below $1, 0.9 over here. Right here, we came down to 0.75. So it's slowly taking a little bit of the value away. And then we're getting some great RSIs through here. Again, this is the 1 minute. So we're getting some great RSIs through here with some double bottom shapes. To me, that just shows some reversal potential. But when it's way down here, it did get below 0.5. So that's what I would have set up. 0.5, it only happened on that candle. 0.45 was the low, 0.5 on this candle. I don't know that 0.5 would have filled here. And then it just started to grind up. And so if you're in just one contract, then this is one that's like, okay, just let it ride. Maybe set a target at one of the previous values in here. And so probably like 3.5. So out of 3.5, if you just had the one. If you got two, or if you wanted, get into two for 0.5 and then take one out at a previous high and let the other one ride, this is another situation. You could just let that ride up to probably only like 9 because it paused here for a whole minute. It was pausing from that candle at the 258. Probably would have gotten out at 9 for the other one. And so you could easily have risked small, 0.5 or 1, so $50 or $100, something like that, and get turned around with a 9x. So you make 800 on the one contract and maybe 250 or 3 on the other contract, something like that. So would have been yeah, incredible to be in that, but it's all based on the same structure of what's happening on the 3 minute, but in the bigger picture, what's happening, what looks like is happening on the daily and breaking out of this downtrend. So that was the framework for today, looking bullish, letting it show us when it has that potential. And today, into the close, that potential had built up quite a bit and worked out really, really well. We'll see if it continues anymore tomorrow. Let's see if there's anything else on this chart. Yeah, just the same kind of choppiness through here on the 21 exponential. I don't see anything else really showing up on this chart. And then on this one, yeah, this is the 15-second chart. So only go down here when you really want to understand how these things move around. Sometimes this is nice because you start to see other patterns form. So at this point, I was buying here just to be buying, knowing that it thinking that it should bounce. It's got a line coming into it. Sure enough, we did. I'm seeing like a triple bottom sort of shape in here. Um, like a nice accumulation, and then it continues on up. You can see some trending happening here where we're putting in some higher lows, and the higher highs are, this is like the megaphone, where the higher highs are getting bigger at, at a faster rate than the higher lows are moving. And then ultimately it just turns vertical and just goes. So there's just a few of the things that you can see on this kind of a time frame. Um, I'm also seeing like an inverted head and shoulders here. So it just depends. Do you draw that as a neckline? Didn't really get a good retest, but still just showing like sometimes it's easier to just see the movements. And it's like, oh, it's so obvious. Like, yeah, that's clearly just S curving and just some choppiness. But where else could you have played it? Maybe you get in a little bit later and you're getting in bullish here and ready to let that ride. Or maybe you're doing something with SPY instead, and it's like you just want to get into like and I'm just ballparking by taking out the zero. Like maybe it's around the 517 strike. Sure. Actually, let's go look. Let's go see what this looks like on SPX. I am still in the wrong mode. Let me delete that. Here's SPY. We were just looking at SPX. So I'm seeing the same thing. Okay, so like around over here, there's some another low, slightly higher low, starting to break. Oops. So I don't have as many lines drawn this one. So I'm just going to connect these highs and kind of matches up with the lows pretty nicely. That actually works really good. Okay, we're just going to go off of that. So just a touch here, and the touch here is what I was looking at. Kind of wicked through that one, started to break down there, recovered, and a nice tag there and bounce. So at this point, you got some resistance coming in and it starts to break out and it's retesting. So here's your retesting, and then that breaks out, that retests itself, and then you're off to the races. And so if you're looking at something out of the money, so here's the high of the day was below 516. So you can get into a 516 call, maybe a 515 call, but you're in the money. 516 call would be phenomenal because it was probably next to nothing, being like 50 cents out of the money and then ends up being 50 cents in the money. That's a solid dollar move in the last 10 minutes of the day. I'm just kind of curious now what that actually was. So let's go look at that option because maybe that one's just the cheaper one to go with. So I'm going to go into here and I'm going to go with the 516 and I have an alarm going off. I want to be done by now. The 516 and I typed in SPX. So SPY 240516 call 516. Here we go. All right, let's look at the last like 10 minutes or so. Okay, cool. So the last hour or so of the day, got some lows way down less than 5 cents. So for $5, literally $5, you can spend $5 on one contract where there's enough happening into that last 15 minutes to say, hey, this has some potential. Spend $5, turn it into $50. Or if we went with maybe the 515, then you're spending, let's say you're getting in on the lows over here. So you're spending $30 to make 130 bucks, or buy for 30 and turn it into 150. And still, it's like, even if you want to just double that from 30 to 60 or triple it from 30 to 90, I mean, 90 would be a great target because it's under that, it's within this high. So it's just under that, not counting on breaking that high, we did. Uh, but yeah, it's just other ways to trade much more aggressively at the end of the day. And they still follow a lot of the same rules with the setups and the lines and the curves, the S curves. It's just buying this with absolute zero. So okay, if it doesn't work, you're not out a huge amount of money. You're only risking what you're going to lose on that trade. You're not putting a stop in place somewhere. You still could. You could buy for 0.3 and a stop at 0.2. I just would advise against that. Not that I'm giving any advice. You click the buttons yourself. But even doing that, it's like, okay, you buy 5 of those and spend, 150 bucks, stop down here at 0.2. So that's you'd lose, if you hit the stop, you lose 100 bucks. I'm sorry, you stopped out at 100 bucks, you lose 50. So that's a $50 risk on 5 of these. And instead it turns into 150, so that's 750 bucks. You risked 150. That's a really nice return. Or you risk 50. That's a really nice return, even with just SPY doing that. So that's something I'm gonna have to try some more, seeing how this works out with SPY. If we go back to SPX, see how the 5165 was. How expensive that got, close to 2 or low around 2. And then that turned into 1500 by the end of the day, or 200 to 1500 by the end of the day. Going the other way, 5180, you could have spent 10 cents, and then there were some spikes past 50, 60, somewhere in there. Much higher likelihood that you're going to lose that entire amount just because it's basically sitting at 0.05, which is about the price that the market makers will buy it back basically for nothing, sort of thing. So sometimes they don't fill you at the 0.05 price. You might get filled at zero point 0.1. You should get filled at zero point 0.1. You may not get filled at 0.05. Again, you don't need to stop. Sometimes you can still get out at 0.05, even when you buy at 0.1. I've done that. So see what your own experience is with it. See what your own experience with your own broker. This is using Thinkorswim, and I know they're about to switch to. It's supposed to all look like the same platform. I haven't tried it yet, but it's supposed to switch from TD Ameritrade to the Schwab, everything through Schwab. So, uh, yeah, I'm probably going to slow down a little bit next week just to make sure that everything is going smooth. I think it's next week that they make the switch. So that's what I'm just see what I can work through this week, and then see how this is going to look different, if it'll look different, um, or if I've got to save some things from this and get a converter. I don't even know what I'm gonna have to go through. But just because I know there's a big change from what I'm familiar with and what I'm really tracking with and looking for, we'll see how this transition goes. So, and on the chart here, 15-second chart, I think it's helpful. I start to see these things much more easily than say the 3 minute, where it's like, okay, that where where's the structure? How is this form? Like, why does this look bullish? It's like here's a hammer. We just took it out over here with this. Like we're taking out lows. That's what this looks like to me. But if we go down to like the 15-second again and see, oh, we're just chopping back and forth between just the high of the channel, the low of the channel. You can still draw the channel on the higher level and then just see how it plays out. And then when you have this kind of false breakdown, it's like, oh, we're holding on to that low. We're above it. We're reversing. It's just like looking to play that aggressively later in the day. It still works early in the day. The difference is the option value is so much less in the last 15, 30 hour of the day, things like that. I was still looking at SPX. Or SPY. Here's SPX again. So you can get these channels drawn in just to connecting these things. And so that's why I threw this one on. It's like, oh, okay, maybe we are going to go down a little steeper. And then I thought, okay, maybe we'll just hold this level and keep breaking out. That'd be phenomenal. Gives us more time from, like 2:20 in Central Time to break out, and we should get back up to the top of this channel. I thought there's a chance we could hit 51.85, and then that contract would be $10 in the money, which would be $1,000, you know, on one contract. So I thought that was potential, and then we did this chopping around. It's like I don't know that we're going to get to 51.85 anymore. Maybe 51.80, and so I was still good with the 5.5 target. And then we did ultimately hit a 51.80 just within the last minute. And it's like, all right, I'll see if we can get the next one. Not holding the last minute. I'd like to be out by 2:58. Ideally I'd be out at 2:50 and have hit the target I wanted, this kind of huge move. But that's something that I've noticed is I've got to be more patient. And I know it's crazy to say that when I'm talking about a 15-second chart and where we're at 10 minutes to the end of the day. But at 250 or 251, 252, we were sitting $5 out of the money and it moved $5 into the money. And a $10 move is not that much on SPX. So it's like the potential is there. That's why I'm like, I'm going to hang on to this. I'll lock in something in case I'm wrong, but the rest I'm going to let it ride, and I'll let it ride. And it was really exciting to be able to do that today. I hope this helps. This is Justin Scoop. Thanks.